You wake up in a world where every breath is already regulated. The drums are beating. You're already in trouble. This isn't just a different country. It's a different logic, a different gravity. A place where the rules aren't just harsh. They're unknowable. This is a civilization that built its empire on obedience and erased anyone who didn't belong. And guess what? You don't belong. So before we watch your short, miserable life unravel like silk in the wind, take a second to subscribe and like this video if you're brave enough to continue. Welcome to ancient China. The first thing you notice isn't the smell, it's the silence. Not peace, not calm. Silence, trained, enforced. A silence so thick it weighs down your thoughts before they even reach your tongue. You open your mouth to speak, but your words don't matter here. Not yet. Not ever. You are not a citizen. You are not a name. You are a unit. And you are already out of line. Congratulations. You've been born into the Qin dynasty, or the Han, or the Tang. It doesn't matter. You think dynasties change things? Here's the truth. Emperors come and go, but your suffering is eternal. You are property. You are a cog in a machine that believes it was designed by the heavens. Your father chose your name, your role, and your silence. Your ancestors chose your fate. And heaven? Heaven chose the emperor, not you. Your home is a mud brick furnace in summer, a wind tunnel in winter. You share it with 8 family members, some chickens, and the ghost of someone who wasn't strong enough to survive last year's famine. There's no bed, no privacy, just a mat, a rice-stuffed pillow hardened into a brick, and an air so stale it tastes like the inside of an urn. You wake up before the sun because your survival depends on it. Sleep too long, and your master, your lord, your overseer, someone with power you'll never understand, assumes you're lazy. And in this world, laziness is treason. You don't eat breakfast, you absorb it. A cold rice ball if you're lucky. A scoop of millet if your family didn't offend the tax collector. No tea, no fruit. Water? It's been scooped from the same canal your neighbor dumped their laundry in, or their corpse. You drink it anyway because thirst is worse than worms. Your clothing is a patchwork of hemp and shame. It smells like wet soil and fear. It's stitched by your mother or your sister or your own blistered fingers. It itches, it leaks, it sticks to your skin like regret. Shoes? If you own them, they're straw-bound and soaked through. Most peasants go barefoot, through filth, through floodwater, through fields littered with broken ceramic and bone. You think that's an exaggeration? Step outside. The road is paved with people who died trying to escape lives just like yours. But maybe you're not a peasant. Maybe you're a concubine, a servant in a noble household, a soldier, or a scholar who failed the imperial exam and is now selling ink and shame from a roadside stall. Doesn't matter. You still won't survive. Let's talk laws. Because in ancient China, laws aren't written for your benefit. They're written to control you. You don't understand them. No one does. They change with the season, with the mood of the magistrate, with the twitch in the emperor's eyelid. Forget to bow the right way. That's a beating. Cough during a ritual, beheading, offend a local noble, your family disappears. Not punished, not imprisoned. Disappears, like they never existed. And you know what's worse? No one even questions it. Because the most terrifying thing about ancient China isn't the cruelty. It's the order, the crushing, meticulous, philosophical weight of order. Confucianism tells you to obey. Taoism tells you to disappear. Legalism tells you to shut up or die. You want freedom. The empire wants harmony. And your freedom is disharmony, which makes you a threat. Let's imagine you're a woman. Now take everything we've described and multiply the suffering by silence. Your feet are bound, not metaphorically, literally, curled into lotus shapes that cripple you for life. It's considered beautiful. It's also an infection factory. You can't run. You can't fight. You can't even walk without pain. But pain is your inheritance. You exist to be traded, married off, locked away, sometimes burned with your dead husband's body in the name of virtue. You are a lesson for your daughter and a shadow to your sons. Still think you're special? Try entering the civil service. The imperial exam is your only ticket out. But it's not a test. It's a blood ritual disguised as bureaucracy. Memorize entire books of Confucian doctrine. Recite them backwards. Analyze obscure poetry written by dead eunuchs. Fail once? Back to the rice paddies. Fail twice? Sell your kidney for scrolls. Pass. Welcome to a world of corruption, court politics, and eventual execution when the next emperor decides you looked at him funny. You go to the market, but nothing is yours. The weights are rigged. The prices are lies. The guards want a bribe. The merchant wants your daughter. And all you want is to get home without losing a tooth. Someone bumps you. You don't yell. You apologize, always. Even when it wasn't your fault. Because the wrong face in the wrong place at the wrong time ends with your head on a spike. Let's talk war. Maybe you're drafted. You're 17. You've never held a weapon. But the Empire doesn't care. The Empire always needs bodies. You march for days on foot. You fight nomads in the north or rebels in the south. Your armor is paper. Your weapon is bronze. Your death is certain. Die well, and maybe they'll carve your name into a tablet. Maybe. But no one will read it. And let's not forget punishment. Public floggings, branding, castration, execution by slow slicing. That's right. They don't just kill you. They make you a warning. To others, to your family, to your ancestors watching from the spirit world. Because in ancient China, death isn't the worst thing. Dishonor is. And once you're marked, even the afterlife slams the door in your face. Religion? It's everywhere and nowhere. The spirits watch, the ancestors whisper, the temple bell rings, and you bow because you must, not because you believe. The rituals are endless, the incense thick, the rules contradictory. Burn the wrong offering, and your grandmother curses your crops from beyond the grave. Let's say you make it to nightfall. You're not dead. Not yet. But you're not safe either. Bandits roam, officials raid. Disease spreads through the alleyways like ink across silk. One bad fever, and you're gone. No medicine. Just herbs, hope, and a village healer who also treats goats. You lie down in your mat-stuffed corner. You've survived the beatings, the silence, the sweat, and the stares. You whisper a prayer to Buddha, to Laozi, to anyone who will listen. But the drums are beating again. And someone, somewhere, made a mistake. So no, you wouldn't last a day in ancient China. You wouldn't survive till sunrise. Not because you're weak, but because this world wasn't built for you. It wasn't built for mercy. It was built for permanence, for control, for survival through submission. Now take a breath. Look around. You're in your own bed. Your name is yours. Your voice is heard. Your footsteps aren't tracked by eunuchs or warlords. So maybe give a quiet thanks to the ones who came before. and maybe subscribe, because there are still empires out there, hidden in time, waiting to break you, and you won't survive the next one either. In ancient China, you don't get to choose anything. Not your name, not your role, not even how you sleep. You're either born into privilege or born into labor, and most weren't lucky. The Confucian machine places you in a social hierarchy tighter than a noose. Your childhood is rote memorization, physical punishment, and zero affection. You're not a person. You're a placeholder for your ancestors. The moment you exit the womb, you are already behind. If you're a girl, you are disappointment. If you're a boy, you are expectation. But neither is freedom. The midwife does not smile. She checks your limbs for signs from heaven. If you cry too much, it's a curse. If you don't cry at all, it's worse. And if you're born during the wrong season, the stars say your future is doomed before it even starts. Your parents don't name you out of joy. They name you out of duty. They pick characters with meanings like obedience, silence, or endurance. These aren't just hopes, they're warnings. You are not your own. You are an extension of the family line, a living sacrifice to lineage. Your body doesn't belong to you, it belongs to your father. Your destiny doesn't belong to you, it belongs to your surname. As a child, you are not coddled. You are disciplined. You are trained. You are broken into form. Your day begins before the sun, with a bow to the ancestors. You light incense and kneel. You do not ask questions. You do not fidget. You do not speak unless spoken to. Education isn't curiosity, it's conformity. You memorize entire volumes of Confucian teachings before you even understand your own feelings. You recite passages until your voice cracks, until your mouth moves by reflex, until your thoughts are not your own, but ancient echoes trapped in your skull. If you make a mistake, your teacher doesn't explain. He strikes. Bamboo rots across your hands, your back, your thighs. Pain teaches quicker than words. It's not abuse, it's tradition. You are molded like clay, burned like porcelain, and expected to smile through the fire. You are not a child. You are an obligation. And this is if you are lucky enough to study. Most don't. Most are handed tools, not books. You're bent over rice paddies by the age of 5. Your toys are dirt clumps. Your games are endurance trials. Carry water until your spine curves. Pick weeds until your fingers bleed. And if you complain, your elders remind you that their elders had it worse. Gratitude is demanded, not earned. Joy is rationed. Laughter is suspicious. Your siblings are not your friends. They are your competitors. There is not enough food, not enough attention, not enough mercy. One misstep from one child can shame the entire household. And shame is lethal. You don't cry out of sadness. You cry from hunger, from shame, from the weight of expectation pressing against your ribs like a stone. But only when no one is watching. Because being seen crying is weakness, and weakness dishonors the family. So you learn to hide your tears. You learn to lie with your face, to bow lower when you're angry, to smile thinner when you're in pain. Because ancient China doesn't reward honesty, it rewards silence. Let's say you reach adolescence. You survived the beatings, the shame, the silence. But now your life really begins, and it's already been decided. If you're a boy, your fate lies in ink and exams. If you pass the imperial tests, you may rise. Not for yourself, but to reflect glory on your ancestors. But passing the exam is like climbing a mountain while blindfolded and barefoot, only 1 in 1,000 makes it. The rest return in disgrace. The shame of failure is a second death. Some never recover. Some don't try again. Some disappear into the countryside with nothing but a broken brush and broken dreams. If you're a girl, the path is even narrower. You're not meant to succeed. You're meant to serve. Your childhood ends the moment your body matures. You are bartered like livestock, married off to cement alliances, given to families who treat you like furniture. You leave your parents' house not with pride, but with warnings. Be quiet. Be obedient. Do not shame us. Your worth is measured in your womb, your silence, your suffering. You are taught to bind your feet, not because it helps you walk, but because it keeps you still. Tiny feet are beautiful. Broken bones are feminine. Pain is your path to marriage. You shuffle instead of stepping. You wince instead of laughing. You survive instead of living. And everyone tells you this is honor. But let's say you're not a peasant. You're born into nobility. Sounds better? Not really. You may have silk robes and soft hands, but you're still a hostage to tradition. Your meals are endless performances. Your speech is calculated. You train to impress guests, not to express thought. The court is a maze of poison disguised as politeness. One wrong word, one sideways glance, and your whole clan falls. You're groomed for marriage, for alliance, for perfection. You are taught which hand to pour tea with, which eyebrow to raise, how to sit without offense. You learn to paint not for joy, but to display discipline. You write poetry, but only if it flatters the right man. You play music, but only to entertain your husband's guests. Your talent is a tool. Your beauty is a bribe. Your mind best left hidden. And if you fall ill, don't expect compassion. Illness is weakness. Suffering is expected. Doctors prescribe mercury, prayer, and fire cupping. You drink boiled roots. You bleed into bowls. You pray to spirits that never answer. Because even in sickness, you are a vessel. If you die in silence. If you live, it's seen as proof that the system works. You age quickly in ancient China. Not in years, but in wear. By 30, your joints creak like bamboo under frost. Your eyes dim from reading by candlelight. Your back curves from work, from submission, from shame. You are old before you are wise. You are exhausted before you are free. But you are never free. And then death comes, quietly, unapologetically. A fever, a childbirth, a famine, a crime, a fall, a flood, a punishment, a purge. Death is not feared. It is familiar. It's the neighbor you pass in the alley, the shadow in the temple, the silence in the rice field. Death is a guest, and life is a brief and often disappointing host. And when you die, you are buried with incense and obligation. Your name is recorded in the family altar, if you were lucky enough to be remembered. Your children burn joss paper in your honor. But if you failed them, if you dishonored the family, they burn nothing. They speak nothing. You are erased. Because in ancient China, the worst fate is not death. It's being forgotten. So yes, birth was a life sentence. You were born into duty, into silence, into obedience. And if you were lucky, you carried your family name like a torch. If not, you carried it like a curse. Either way, it wasn't yours. It never was. Now look at your life. Your name is yours. Your choices are yours. Your feet are unbound. Your voice is heard. And you have the privilege to complain about slow Wi-Fi while your ancestors screamed into the dirt with no one listening. So maybe whisper a quiet thank you. Maybe bow, just once, to the past. And maybe, just maybe, subscribe, because you've only seen one prison, and history is full of them. You dream of rice? That's cute. In ancient China, rice is not a given. It's a luxury, a symbol, a whisper from the top of the social pyramid that never reaches the bottom. Most people never see white rice, unless it's in a bowl they're handing to someone else. You get millet. Every day. Forever. And if you're lucky, it's not moldy. If you're really lucky, it doesn't have bugs. But don't get attached to luck. It runs out faster than your dinner. You wake up hungry, you go to sleep hungrier. Hunger is not an emergency here. It's a rhythm, a calendar. It comes in waves. Monsoon, bad harvest, imperial taxes, rat plague, locust swarm, war rebellion, policy drought, frost death, and you adjust your expectations like a good subject of the Son of Heaven. You learn that food is not fuel, it's obedience, it's survival by permission. Breakfast is what's left from last night, or the night before. A slop of boiled millet, if there's any. Thick, gritty, grey. Stirred with a stick and served in a cracked bowl. No sugar, no flavour, no joy. Maybe a pickle. Maybe a salted radish slice, so sour it makes your jaw twitch. But you eat it anyway because your stomach doesn't care if your taste buds are crying. Lunch is a dream, a concept. Sometimes a spoonful of pottage if someone shares. Pottage here means whatever is boiling in the communal pot, which has never been emptied. The ingredients shift. Yesterday's turnip, today's weeds, tomorrow's hope. It's more of a broth-shaped mystery than an actual meal. And let's not forget the protein. If you're lucky enough to find a strip of meat, it probably came from an animal that died 2 weeks ago, or from something that was never meant to be eaten. Fish guts, frog legs, snails, rat, bird bones. You chew, you swallow, you pray it stays down. Salt? That's state property. It's taxed, controlled, measured. A pinch of salt costs more than a labourer's daily wage. Steal it and you don't get a warning. You get lashes, or chains, or worse. Your whole family is fined, humiliated, starved into compliance. You learn to eat bland. You learn to eat silence. And if you dare season your food without permission, congratulations, you've just committed a political crime. Water? Don't. Just don't. It's drawn from canals that double as sewage. It's scooped from rivers where people wash clothes, dump trash, and bathe their animals. Clear water doesn't mean clean. It means invisible death. So you drink weak tea if you can afford it, or beer made from leftover grain, fermented just enough to kill the worst bacteria. Children drink it too. Not because anyone wants that, but because boiling water costs wood, and wood costs blood. So you sip your tepid mash and hope the worms in your stomach are already full. Dinner, if it exists, is ceremonial. You sit in silence around a small fire, staring into bowls that look full only because the bowls are shallow. You chew slowly, not because it helps digestion, but because you want the illusion of more. You savor every gritty mouthful like it's the last, because it might be. Winter is coming. The granary is empty. The emperor raised the grain tax, and your neighbor's child just collapsed in the field. But maybe, just maybe, you're not a peasant. You're a city worker, or a minor scholar, or a soldier stationed near a town. Great. Now your rations are predictable, predictably bad. Hard biscuits that shatter like clay in your mouth. Dry bean cakes that taste like regret. Sour cabbage. salty fish that's more bone than flesh. And when the emperor tightens the quotas, your portion shrinks like a dying crop. You want meat? That's adorable. Meat is a once-a-year event, maybe. A festival, a wedding, a sacrifice. And even then, the best cuts go to the priest or the local noble. You get what's left, the neck, the feet, the organ sludge they scrape into dumplings to make them look fuller. You chew on gristle and dream of roast duck, but dreams are for emperors. You wake up to famine, still hungry. Try foraging, pick wild roots, dig through old fields, search the hills for mushrooms and hope they aren't poisonous. But be careful, some areas are protected. You can be punished for picking herbs that don't belong to you. You can be punished for trapping animals on the wrong land. You can be punished for growing vegetables that make your home look too wealthy. Because food here isn't just survival, it's class. And if you eat above your station, you are declaring war on the hierarchy. Even fruit betrays you. It rots fast. It bruises. It disappears before it ever reaches your mouth. If you see a peach, it's being carried past you to a noble's table. If you smell sweetness, it's in someone else's home. You taste sweetness once or twice a year, maybe during the Mid-Autumn Festival. You remember that one date cake your mother gave you when you turned 7. You remember it like it was a kiss from heaven. And you never had one again. Now let's talk feast days. You think it's better? It's not. You work twice as hard to cook 3 times as much. You slaughter the only chicken you have. You burn half your winter firewood just to bake flatbread for the guests. And if you live near the imperial palace, your best produce is requisitioned by officials before you even taste it. You watch food walk away in baskets held by soldiers who don't speak. You bow, you smile, you starve, and if you beg, that's shame. If you steal, that's death. If you hoard, that's betrayal. The only acceptable way to be hungry in ancient China is quietly. Your body changes, your teeth go yellow, your nails crack, your skin dries, your stomach shrinks. You stop feeling full. You stop feeling anything. Until one day, you just stop. This is not an accident. This is not mismanagement. This is design. Food is power. Food is politics. The emperor controls the salt, the grain, the tea, the trade, the storage, the rivers, the irrigation. The nobles control the fields. The officials control the markets. You control nothing. You plant, you water, you harvest, and you hope to taste the thing you grew. But usually, you don't. So no. Food wouldn't save you. Food would break you. Not because you are weak, but because the system is built to keep you begging for your next bowl. Because hunger is a form of governance. Because survival is proof of obedience. And if you ever tasted too much, if you ever filled your belly while others starved, then you'd become the enemy. Because here, a full stomach is a threat, a sin, a rebellion, and the empire knows how to deal with rebels. Now take a moment. Look at your fridge, your delivery app, your leftovers, your crumbs, and remember, once, not so long ago, people begged for the things you throw away. Once, not so long ago, food was a battlefield, and the war never really ended. Maybe it's time to say thank you. Maybe it's time to subscribe, because in the next story, even water will betray you, and you're going to be thirsty. In ancient China, going outside isn't freedom. It's exposure. It's risk. It's a gamble. One step over the threshold, and your life stops being yours. The road doesn't care about your intentions. The guards don't care about your destination. And the state doesn't care if you're innocent. It only cares if you're obedient. There are rules for how you walk, how you bow, how long you hold your gaze, how quickly you step aside for someone of higher status, how deeply you nod at a soldier, how softly you speak to a merchant, how you lower your eyes in front of a scholar. And those rules aren't written on signs. They're written in the minds of 1,000,000 people who know them better than you, and they are watching. You're a commoner. You don't get to make mistakes. Break one rule, you're warned. Break two, you're whipped. Break three, and your family stops seeing you at dinner. Not because you're dead, not yet, but because no one wants to be associated with a person who walks wrong, who speaks wrong, who forgot which direction to bow during a procession. Your life is measured in gestures, your value in silence. Think you're safe in your own neighborhood? You're not. You need documents to travel, even within your own city. Papers signed by officials who don't know your name, don't care about your errands, and don't need a reason to say no. Want to visit your cousin 3 streets over? Get it stamped. Want to carry goods to the market? Prove they're yours. Want to walk past the city gate? Prepare to answer questions you didn't know had answers. And it's not just guards with spears you need to worry about. It's the neighbors, the merchants, the monks, the children. Anyone can report you. Anyone can point. Anyone can decide you look suspicious. And the guards, the guards don't need a crime. They don't need a reason. They just need to feel like it. And they often do. Your clothes are a confession. Silk, that's for nobles. Hemp, that's for workers. Certain colors are forbidden. Certain patterns signal status. You wear something too fine, and you're accused of impersonating the upper class. You wear something too plain, and they ask why you're in this district at all. You're constantly too much or not enough. One misplaced stitch, and you're dragged off for questioning. You say it's a mistake. They say it's defiance. Guess whose opinion matters more? Hair matters. Nails matter. Your shoes, your sleeves, your belt. Everything tells a story about your place. And if your story doesn't match what someone else expects, that's impersonation. That's fraud. That's a beating, if you're lucky. And heaven help you if there's an official parade, or an imperial envoy, or a religious festival. Streets are cleared. Silence is enforced. Citizens must kneel or turn their backs or vanish entirely, depending on the ruler's mood. You don't get to watch. You don't get to cheer. You get to comply. Late by 1 second. Lashed. Standing too close. Dragged away. Speaking during a sacred moment. Disappeared. The streets aren't paved with stone. They're paved with power. Every shop is watched. Every square has eyes. The innkeeper is listening. The priest is judging. The vendor is calculating. You speak too freely? Someone reports you. You complain about taxes? Someone informs on you. You say something foolish in a tea house? That man sipping next to you is a local bureaucrat's cousin. He smiles. You won't see him again, but you'll see his consequence, and then there's the curfew. Don't be outside after sundown. Don't be near the riverbank. Don't be seen walking alone if you're a woman. Don't be near the palace wall. Don't look up at the wrong time. The law is a shifting tide. It doesn't protect you. It drowns you if you're not careful. And the guards don't carry rule books. They carry whips. So maybe you think staying quiet, staying low, staying small will keep you safe. But the thing is, everyone is trying to do that. Everyone is crouched, hoping they're the one who goes unnoticed. That makes you disposable. If they need someone to make an example of, it might be you. Not because you did anything wrong, but because you didn't do everything right. And that's the real danger. In ancient China, you're not punished for crime. You're punished for existence outside expectation. You think the walls are there to keep people out? No, they're there to keep you in. The cities are built like boxes. Districts are gated. Gates are manned. Markets are controlled. Movement is permission-based. Every step is recorded in someone's ledger. Every journey is a privilege. But let's say you need to leave your city. You're a merchant, or a messenger, or a son summoned to a dying parent. You need a travel permit. You need an escort. You need to pass checkpoints. You need bribes. And even with all that, you need luck. Because the roads are patrolled by soldiers who enforce rules you haven't heard of. You can be detained for having the wrong accent, for carrying too many coins, for looking confident when you're supposed to look afraid, for being alive in the wrong place at the wrong time. And even if you make it past the guards, there are the bandits, not just thieves, but starving men with nothing to lose. Ex-soldiers turned raiders, farmers turned killers, people who once bowed like you until they decided to stop. They don't ask questions. They take what they want. And if you resist, they leave your body in a ditch, and no one reports it. Because no one wants to answer the next round of questions from the officials. And then there's weather, and disease, and accidents. You trip on a stone, break your leg, and now you can't work. You can't beg. You can't travel. You are now a burden. You are now suspicious. You are now prey. People start avoiding you. Guards start eyeing you. They assume you're a leper, a plague carrier, a vagrant. You're told to move along, but there's nowhere to go. Because every place has rules, and every rule has teeth. You don't just fear violence in ancient China. You fear being misunderstood. You fear being noticed. Because the closer you get to visibility, the closer you get to punishment. So you step outside, carefully, head low, gaze down, mouth shut, clothes modest, walk soft, documents ready. And you hope that the world doesn't notice you, because if it does, you may not come back. One step outside could kill you, not with a sword, but with a stare, a word, a whisper, a scroll with your name on it, a guard with a bad mood, a law written before you were born, a silence after you speak. So next time you complain about traffic, about crowds, about walking freely down your street, remember that once, in a world not so far from yours, walking wasn't freedom. It was fear in motion. Maybe take a moment. Maybe subscribe. Because next time, we're stepping into a place where speaking could cost your tongue. And you're not ready for that either. Ignorance is no excuse in a legal system designed to kill. In ancient China, the law isn't a set of guidelines. It's a weapon. It's a trap. It's a game where the rules shift faster than you can learn them, and the only prize for winning is survival. There are hundreds of crimes, and you've probably committed 10 already. You don't even know what they are. That's the point. The emperor's name? Sacred. You write it wrong. Stroke out of place. Ink too thick. Brush stroke too rushed. Execution. Not imprisonment. Not a fine. Execution. Because writing the emperor's name is not just an act of literacy. It's an act of loyalty. And anything short of perfection is treason. Speaking the wrong phrase in the marketplace. Treason. Possessing forbidden texts. Treason. Wearing clothing above your class. Treason. Entering a sacred site at the wrong time of day? Treason. Laughing during the wrong festival? That's sacrilege, and sacrilege is punished like treason. You walk through your day in a legal minefield. You breathe under surveillance, and when the sword falls, no one will say it wasn't your fault. Because in this system, guilt isn't proven, it's presumed, and innocence is irrelevant. You exist within a hierarchy built on absolute obedience. You are a subject, a particle in the emperor's order. You are not allowed to question the law. You are not even allowed to know it fully. The codes are vast, complex, written in bureaucratic ink and elite dialects. You are expected to obey them anyway. Break the law. The punishment is not designed to correct you. It's designed to erase you, slowly, publicly, with maximum spectacle. Execution methods are not just violent. They're rituals, the slow slicing, death by 1,000 cuts, flesh flayed piece by piece until your body forgets it was ever whole, strangulation in public squares, beheadings in front of jeering crowds, and if the emperor is feeling generous, a swift sword. But mercy is rare. Pain is policy. Some punishments aren't meant to kill, just to ruin. Branding, mutilation, tattooing your crime across your forehead, castration, amputation. You live, but you don't live as yourself. You live as a warning. But the worst part? It doesn't end with you. If you're convicted, your family suffers with you. Not just your parents, not just your children. Generations. Your clan is implicated. Your brothers are stripped of property. Your cousins are blacklisted from jobs. Your surname becomes a curse. Your family line is smeared in the records, like ink dragged across a scroll. Even your ancestors are said to suffer in the spirit world, and that's intentional, because the law here is not just about punishing the guilty. It's about scaring everyone else. It's about keeping 1 billion thoughts in check by crushing one skull at a time. The law doesn't protect you. It's not a shield. It's a cage made of rituals, bureaucracy, and terror. Let's say you didn't do anything. Doesn't matter. Someone accuses you. A neighbor, a rival, a merchant who wants your stall, a magistrate who needs a scapegoat. You are summoned. You are interrogated. You are tortured, because confession is the cornerstone of justice here. If you bleed fast enough and scream the right words, maybe they let you die with some dignity. Torture is not hidden. It's codified. Officials are required to use it. Wooden sticks slammed against your shins, iron rods searing your back, your fingers crushed until they resemble ink stains, your knees split open to test your sincerity, and through it all, you're expected to beg for forgiveness, to thank your tormentors for the clarity of punishment. And if you survive, you're marked, literally, branded as a criminal. Your job opportunities vanish. Your marriage prospects disappear. Your children are labeled tainted. And the worst part, you might still believe it was fair, because the system is that deep, that old, that powerful. You grow up learning that punishment is righteousness, that obedience is morality, that silence is virtue. Now let's talk about exile. Sounds mild, doesn't it? It's not. Exile means being marched across mountains, deserts, frozen rivers. You go with iron chains around your neck. You eat rats if you can catch them. You sleep under trees. You dig your own latrines. You die on the way, and no one records your name. Because exile isn't transportation. It's erasure in slow motion. And for the lucky few who survive exile, life doesn't restart. You become part of a penal colony. You build roads with your hands. You mine salt with no tools. You carry bricks until your spine folds like paper. You are paid in silence, fed in rot, watched by men who hate you. And when you die, because you will, they dump you in the earth without a name. All of this, just for breaking the wrong rule, just for owning the wrong book, just for looking the wrong way at the wrong time. Justice is not blind in ancient China. Justice is a weapon held by the powerful, and it sees exactly what it wants to destroy. Still think you're safe? You think being a noble protects you? It doesn't. High-ranking officials are executed regularly. One wrong letter, one failed shipment, one disgraced ally. You're paraded through the streets before your execution, head shaved, wrists bound, shame as thick as the crowd around you. Your students abandon you. Your children weep in hiding. And your name is struck from the records. Justice here is not about balance, it's about performance. Public trials are theatre. The magistrate already knows the outcome. Witnesses are coached, documents are forged, and the audience watches not for truth, but for blood. And what about mercy? What about appeals? You can write one, if you can find ink, if you can find a scribe who won't betray you, if you can get it past 6 layers of bureaucracy before your sentence is carried out. Good luck, because the system doesn't want to hear from you. It wants to forget you existed. So yes, the law will destroy you, not by accident, by design. Because fear is more useful than fairness. Because terror is more effective than truth. You walk through the world assuming law means order, that it protects, that it limits chaos. But here, the law is the chaos. It's a maze with no exit, a shadow with a blade, a poem written in blood and signed with silence. Now look at your world, your trial rights, your phone call, your lawyer, your chance to explain, the idea that maybe, just maybe, someone will listen. That's not normal. That's new. That's rare. That's a privilege your ancestors died without. So maybe take a breath. Maybe take a moment. Maybe subscribe. Because next time, we're going into a world where even your dreams are regulated. And you're not ready for that either. You don't speak unless spoken to. You don't walk where men walk. You don't look them in the eye. You don't sit unless you're told to. You don't raise your voice. You don't finish a sentence that wasn't started for you. And if you forget any of this, you're not corrected. You're punished. Because in ancient China, womanhood isn't an identity. It's a sentence. From the moment you're born, the disappointment is loud even in silence. The midwife frowns. Your grandmother looks away. Your mother pretends to smile but already fears for your future. There are no cheers, no firecrackers, no celebration. A girl means another mouth to feed, another burden to marry off, another reminder that she gave birth to the wrong hope. Your arrival is met with quiet calculations. How much will your dowry cost? Who can they marry you to? How fast can you be made useful? Your childhood is not play, it's preparation. While boys learn to read and write, you learn to bow and obey. While your brother studies Confucius, you memorize silence. You fetch water, you sweep floors. You learn to sew, to cook, to stay invisible. You are praised for endurance, not brilliance, for stillness, not curiosity. You are raised not to live, but to be given away. And if you dare to dream of a life that is yours, of days without fear, of a voice that doesn't tremble, you learn quickly that dreaming is dangerous. A woman who imagines more is a woman who disrespects her station. A woman who speaks too often becomes a lesson for others. Because in this world, your only acceptable ambition is to suffer well and serve better. Your body is not your own. It never was. By age 6, your feet are taken from you, not with blades, with cloth and pressure and tradition. They're bound, folded, crushed, reshaped into symbols of obedience. The pain is not temporary. It becomes your shadow. Every step you take is agony. And that's the point, because suffering is proof. Proof that you are civilized, that you are beautiful, that you are marriageable. Marriage isn't love, it's a transaction. Between families, not hearts. Your husband is chosen for his land, his name, his connections. You are chosen for your womb, your silence, your ability to endure. You don't meet his eyes at the wedding. You don't speak during the vows. You're carried to his house like a cargo. And once you enter that door, you don't leave. Not unless you're dead. Inside the home, you serve his parents before you serve him. You wake before dawn to prepare his food, wash his clothes, tend his animals. And if he beats you, you are probably disobedient. If he ignores you, be grateful. If he takes concubines, it's his right. If you complain, you're ungrateful. If you cry, you're weak. If you fight back, you're dangerous. Pregnancy is not joy. It's pressure. If you give birth to a son, you gain a sliver of respect. If it's a daughter, you're blamed. If you die in childbirth, and many do, your name is whispered with shame or forgotten entirely. And if the child dies, they say it's because you didn't pray enough, or because your spirit was impure, or because fate knew better. You can be punished for adultery, for infertility, for not pleasing your husband, for being seen with a man who isn't your brother, for walking alone, for having opinions, for grieving too loudly, for laughing too freely. Your virtue is always on trial. Your freedom is always conditional. Your identity is always someone else's to define. If you're unmarried past your prime, you are mocked. If you are widowed, you must wear white, live in mourning, and pray they don't remarry you to a drunk cousin. If you refuse, you're accused of rebellion. If you want to study, to read, to write poetry, you must do it in secret, by candlelight, behind curtains, using names that aren't yours. And if your writing is found, the ink stains become evidence. Even if you live in the palace, even if you are a concubine to the emperor himself, your life is still a cage gilded with cruelty. You are trained in arts, in dance, in submission. You're pampered to perform, adorned to please, discarded when no longer useful. Your every word is monitored, your every gesture judged. And the other women, they are not your sisters. They are your competition. Because in a world that divides women, you survive by stepping over others. Your value is always external. Your worth is always conditional. Your legacy is decided by the men who survive you. You are not remembered for your thoughts. You are remembered for your sons, or for your scandal, or not at all. Even religion doesn't save you. In temples you may become a nun, but even there you are bound by silence. You live under rules made by men. You pray to gods shaped like fathers. You chant not for liberation, but for humility. You give up your name, your family, your future, and still you are told to repent. You cannot own land. You cannot inherit wealth. You cannot divorce without disgrace. You cannot speak at court. You cannot testify without suspicion. You cannot win. Because in ancient China, womanhood is a system of containment, a script written before your birth, a contract you didn't sign but must fulfill. You are expected to be pure like jade, soft like silk, quiet like the moon. But the truth is, jade can crack, silk can burn. And the moon, though silent, sees everything. If you vanish, the records won't notice. If you rebel, the punishments are swift. If you succeed, the credit goes to the man who allowed you to try. You are erased before you begin, buried beneath expectations, disassembled by duty. So yes, if you're a woman in ancient China, you're already gone. Not physically, but piece by piece, thought by thought, voice by voice. You vanish into obedience, into shadows, into a history that refused to write your name. Now think of your voice, your words, your choices. Think of the books you read, the streets you walk, the dreams you carry. Those weren't free. They were fought for and lost by women whose names you'll never know. Maybe take a moment. Maybe remember them. Maybe subscribe. Because next time, we'll look at what happens when even hope becomes a crime. And you won't survive that either. You work from dawn to exhaustion with no rest days. And exhaustion doesn't mean tired. It means crawling. It means shaking hands, bloodied palms, eyes so dry they feel like sand. In ancient China, daily life isn't life. It's labor on a countdown. And no one is counting for you. You wake up not because you're rested, but because you're not allowed to sleep anymore. Because the rooster crows. Because your father shouts. Because the sun rises. And with it, the debt you owe to existence. Your body is not your own. It belongs to the land, the family, the field, the ruler, the taxman, the weather. You rise with joints that already ache at 17. You stretch and feel your spine resist like an old rope. Your muscles are tight because they were never meant to stop. And they don't. There is no weekend. There is no holiday. The closest thing you have to a rest day is illness. And even then, you still drag yourself to the paddies because someone has to feed the chickens, haul the water, clean the latrine. Because if you don't do it, no one else will. Or worse, someone else will, and you'll be seen as lazy. And laziness is a sin against the ancestors, a stain on the family name, a mark that follows your bloodline. You are born into labor. You do not learn it. You inherit it. Your tools are crude, wooden hoes, rusted blades, baskets patched with straw and luck. Your sandals fall apart faster than you can fix them. Most days you don't wear them, just bare feet in the mud, in the frost, on stones that bite deeper every year. You don't feel your toes anymore. And that's a blessing, because pain is not an alarm here. It's the background noise of survival. You plow, you seed, you cut, you carry. Your back bends, your knees scream. Your skin splits from cold in the winter and burns from sun in the summer. The calluses on your hands are thick as bark. You develop permanent bruises in places you didn't know existed. Your shoulders become hunched before your 20s. You lose teeth from grit in your food. You lose hearing from the bell that calls you to the fields. You lose hope, but only quietly, because hope is a luxury. Hope is for poets and monks and people who get to rest. You eat what you grow, but only after the officials take their share, and the nobleman takes his, and the weather takes its toll, and the rats take what's left. You eat from stone bowls with wooden spoons, millet, boiled until it becomes a paste, radishes if they survived the frost, pickled roots, fish bones if someone managed to catch something. Sometimes there is meat, not for flavor, for survival. It's always stringy, always tough, always suspicious. You drink what's available, not what's clean. From wells, rivers, buckets left open to the sky and the flies. You pretend not to see the film floating on top. You don't ask where the water came from. You just hope it's been boiled long enough. You drink fast so you don't smell it. And if it burns your throat, that means it's probably safer than the alternatives. You've been sick before. You'll be sick again. And sickness isn't treated. It's endured. There are no doctors. There are herbs, smoke, prayers, and fire. Someone heats a stick and presses it to your skin. Someone lights incense and waves it over your body. Someone draws talismans and ties them to your wrists. If you live, they say the gods heard. If you die, they say it was fate. Either way, there's no cure, just time, and not much of it. Pain becomes your language. You grunt instead of greet. You limp instead of complain. Everyone is hurting. No one talks about it. Because talking doesn't make the rice grow faster. It doesn't mend the roof. It doesn't carry water uphill. So you clench your jaw and keep moving. And then there's the weather. Your roof leaks. Your walls are made of dirt. Wind sneaks in through cracks. Rain turns your floor into a swamp. In summer, your home is a kiln. In winter, it's a tomb. You sleep on straw, not hay, not a mattress, just straw, mouldy, damp, alive with bugs. You wrap yourself in cloth that hasn't been washed in weeks, maybe months. You curl into yourself to keep the heat in and the rats out, and you pray you don't wake up with frost on your lips. Your body is a tool, and when it breaks, it's discarded. No one comes to help. There are no pensions, no hospitals, no medicine, just a shallow grave, a whispered prayer, and a hope that someone else picks up the slack. You are expected to work until you die. And if you die young, no one is surprised. If you die in your 30s, they say you lived long. If you die in your 20s, they say you worked hard. If you die as a child, they say the ancestors called you back early. Every death has an explanation. No death has outrage. And if by some miracle you reach old age, your body is brittle, your eyes are dim, your hands are twisted. You are kept around to watch the children and scare the birds. You tell stories no one listens to. You shuffle slowly to the fire and sit in silence. You are not respected for surviving. You are pitied. And when you stop moving, you are missed. But briefly. Because life continues. Because work doesn't pause. Because your death is just another task to complete. So yes, daily life is a physical war. Not dramatic, not cinematic, just constant. Endless, inescapable. You do not fight for glory. You fight for rice. You fight for warmth. You fight because there is no alternative. Because the world will not stop for you. Because no one will carry you. Because the only thing more painful than living this life is failing to live it correctly. Now take a breath. Stretch your limbs. Feel the ground beneath your clean shoes. Remember that once, not so long ago, every sunrise meant another round of pain. And still, they endured. Maybe take a moment to honor that. Maybe take a moment to remember. Maybe subscribe. Because next time, we'll show you a world where even rest was a privilege, and you haven't earned it yet. In ancient China, dying well is as important as living right. Maybe even more. Because living wrong can shame your family. But dying wrong, that can doom your soul, that can curse your bloodline, that can echo for generations. In this world, death is not the end. It's a second beginning. And if you take the wrong step, even after your last breath, you don't just disappear. You linger. You rot in more than just flesh. You rot in spirit. You rot in history. This isn't superstition. It's structure. It's law. It's culture. Death here is bureaucracy draped in incense, its ritual carved into bone. If you die without ceremony, without purification, without the proper rites spoken in the right order by the right people under the right sky, then you are not at rest. You are not gone. You are stuck. Your soul wanders, blind, hungry, angry. You become a ghost, not of mystery, but of failure, the kind that knocks bowls off shelves, the kind that dries rice in the pot, the kind that brings stillbirths and plagues and strange accidents that no one dares name out loud. You become a threat to your family, to your village, to your name. If no one buries you properly, you are not remembered. You are feared. Because in this system, burial is not just disposal. It's redemption. It's your only way back into the cycle, back into memory, back into peace. And if you are denied that, if your body is lost in a flood, or burned without rites, or dumped in a ditch, or left exposed, then your soul doesn't fade. It lingers. It claws at the threshold of the living, begging for form, for voice, for justice. And no one listens. The rituals are exact. Water for cleansing, fire for offering, paper money to burn, incense to carry your name upward, a priest if you're lucky, a shaman if you're rural, a family elder whispering the old words that you were never allowed to learn yourself. Your bones must be wrapped the right way. Your clothes must be chosen based on your age, your role, your death. Too bright and it's disrespect, too dark and it invites sickness, and that's just the burial. The after-death duties stretch for weeks, months, years. Mourning periods must be observed. Black or white clothing. No celebrations, no music, no laughter. Some families eat plain rice for weeks. Some sleep on the floor beside your grave. Some build altars with your photo, your name, your favorite dish, just to keep your spirit calm. But what happens if the family fails? What if your children forget to burn joss paper on the right day? What if your wife remarries too quickly? What if your brother doesn't bow low enough at your tomb? Then you become restless, angry, hungry, not just in the spirit world, but in the living one. They say spirits without peace bring bad crops, bring disease, bring misfortune, bring madness, so your memory becomes a weight, a ticking clock, a test no one can pass forever. And if you die violently, execution, drowning, suicide, murder, the stain is worse. You are believed to die with open eyes, with clenched fists, with your name tied in a knot so tight that it chokes anyone who tries to speak it again. Violent deaths must be untangled, cleansed, smoothed by ritual and prayer and money and time. Otherwise, you don't become an ancestor. You become an omen. And don't think your status protects you. The state owns your bones. Even in death, the emperor's officials control cemeteries, tax the graves, confiscate burial land, restrict rituals during drought, war, famine. If your family is too poor to pay the fees, your grave is left shallow, vulnerable, or worse, it's reused. You share your eternity with someone else, or you are moved, dug up, dumped elsewhere like trash. And if you think that's rare, it's not. Because death is expensive, and poverty doesn't stop at the edge of the grave. And then there's the law. Die under suspicion. Your corpse is examined, paraded, desecrated. Die while indebted. Your family pays. Die while in prison. Your name is struck from the records. You are denied proper burial. You become unburied dead. The worst fate, the most feared, because even hell rejects you. You think tombstones are for remembrance. Here, they're for instruction. Each one is a contract, a warning, a boundary between peace and disaster. If it's defaced, miswritten, misplaced, that's not a clerical error. That's spiritual sabotage. The dead rise in protest, and they don't forgive. And if you're a woman, death is no release. Your afterlife is still conditional. If you die unmarried, your spirit may be married to another dead man. Your body dug up and placed in another family's tomb, so their dead son won't be alone. They pay your family. They take your bones. You don't get a say. You don't get a ceremony. You get relocated. Even in death, you're still traded, still moved like an object, still spoken for. And if you die in childbirth, they bury you with shame, because some believe it means your spirit is cursed. You birthed life, but died in the act, so your soul is confused, split, bitter. You are mourned, but feared, worshipped, but watched. Your grave receives more offerings, not out of love, but out of caution. Children who die young must be buried differently, quickly, sometimes without names, because their spirits are wild, unformed, hungry, capable of returning too easily. So they are given water offerings, bells, charms, and even then, parents whisper their names only in dreams. But what if your family moves? What if war drives them away? What if they die too, and no one remembers where you were buried? Then your grave crumbles, the altar disappears. Your spirit is orphaned, and an orphaned ghost is the most dangerous of all, because you didn't just die, you died wrong, and no one fixed it. So yes, death matters. How you die, where you die, who remembers, who forgets, whether your body is whole, whether your name is spoken, whether your grave is clean, whether your story is told. You think you'll be dead, so it won't matter. It matters to them, to the crops, to the sky, to the village, to your children, to the priest, to the house where the wind always blows the door open. In this world, even a silent death can scream. Even a forgotten body can punish the living. Even your shadow has expectations. So don't get sick. Don't get killed. Don't die without permission. And above all, don't die alone. Because if you do, you may not be the only one who pays. Now think about that. And maybe, subscribe. Because next time, we're going into a world where even your birth is a battlefield, and you were already losing before you cried. You think taxes are bad now? Try grain tax, labor tax, salt tax, marriage tax, bridge tax, canal tax, death tax, and smile while paying. Because if you frown, if you question, if you even hesitate as you hand over your family's last bag of rice, you're marked, watched, recorded, punished. In ancient China, the state doesn't just rule with soldiers. It rules with scrolls, with stamps, with silence. And bureaucracy is the blade that cuts deeper than any sword. The emperor is a god, untouchable, distant, enshrined in jade and silk and legend. But the clerk down the street, the tax collector, the magistrate, the inspector with crooked teeth and a long memory, he decides whether you eat, whether your name remains, whether your family avoids disgrace. Because the emperor may rule the heavens, but the bureaucrat rules your door. Every aspect of life is documented, inspected, enforced. You want to marry? Fill out a form. You want to travel? Request a permit. You want to move your cart to the other side of the market? Submit a petition, wait 3 weeks, and hope someone doesn't misplace it. Your livestock is counted. Your roof tiles are listed. Your sons are measured, weighed, and sorted like grain into ledgers that never forget. One wrong record, one stroke of a brush out of place, and your whole family becomes suspect. The system is immense, elegant, terrifying. Dozens of ministries, each with thousands of functionaries. The Ministry of Rights, the Ministry of Revenue, the Ministry of War, the Ministry of Punishment, each staffed by men who passed the imperial exam but were broken by the imperial machine. They sit at their desks for decades, copying scrolls, stamping names, ruining lives without blinking. A miswritten address can send your harvest to the wrong province. A lost seal can mean your daughter's marriage is invalid. And it's always your fault, not theirs. One missing paper and you're legally a fugitive. Not maybe, not potentially, legally. No one cares that you filed it last year. No one cares that the courier died en route. No one cares that the official you submitted it to was drunk, corrupt, or dead. The records are truth. And if they say you didn't pay your tax, then you didn't. And if you say otherwise, you're lying. You're disrespecting the system. You're challenging heaven. Officials can fabricate charges. They don't need evidence. They need motivation. Maybe your cousin insulted someone important. Maybe your neighbor paid a bribe and needed someone to blame. Maybe someone didn't like your handwriting. You don't get to speak. You don't get to question. You get a date with punishment. Fines, labor, whipping, exile, death. Your options are limited. Your voice is irrelevant. You appeal, good luck. Your petition goes through 6 levels of review, each slower than the last. At any point it can be returned, delayed, lost, burned, or corrected to say something you never wrote. Even if your petition reaches a higher office, the official who reads it already knows who his friends are. You don't need to be wrong to lose. You just need to be inconvenient. And if you do win, if by some miracle someone believes you, corrects the mistake, clears your name, what then? You've still lost your land, your harvest, your savings, your reputation, your time, because justice is not restoration. It's recognition, and recognition doesn't undo the wreckage. Even the act of being seen by an official is dangerous. You approach with bowed head, with gifts, with apology, even if you've done nothing wrong. You speak only when asked. You keep your answers short, safe, predictable. Because if you speak too much, you're arrogant. If you speak too little, you're suspicious. If you tremble, you're guilty. If you don't, you're hiding something. The bureaucrats have their own language, flowery, oblique, trained. You say, my pig is missing. They say, a resource discrepancy has emerged between registry and yield. You say, my roof collapsed. They say, infrastructural erosion has resulted in a civic misalignment. You don't understand. You're not meant to. That's the point. Because the bureaucracy doesn't just manage the empire. It is the empire. Every scroll a policy. Every seal a commandment. Every office a miniature throne. The paper weighs more than steel. The brush cuts deeper than the blade. And once you're inside the system, you don't climb. You drown. Some families spend generations trying to become part of it. The imperial exam is their dream, their obsession. Study from childhood, recite the classics, write essays so perfect they break your wrist. Pass the test and you join the civil service. But it's not salvation. It's a different kind of prison, one where you sit for 12 hours a day, reviewing grain reports from counties you'll never visit, signing off on punishments for people you'll never meet, stamping orders you barely read because they don't concern you, only the image of competence you must maintain. You cannot fight the bureaucracy. You cannot ignore it. you cannot even understand its full shape, because by the time you learn the rules change. By the time you gather the required documents, they're outdated, and by the time you catch up, they're already punishing you for being late. And the punishment isn't just physical, it's erasure. You vanish from the record. Your name is marked as unreliable. Your family's file is tagged. Your descendants inherit your stain. You become an asterisk in a book no one will ever read. A failure in a system that doesn't recognize humanity, only compliance. So you comply. You over-comply. You carry 5 copies of every document. You bribe the right scribe. You memorize the right words. You smile at the wrong man and pray he forgets your face. You live in fear, not of war, not of famine, not even of death, but of paperwork, of process, of invisible ink that can cut you down without a sound, because the emperor wears a crown. But bureaucracy wears your skin. It walks through your home. It sits on your roof. It watches you from behind your own front gate. It hears your whispers, not through spies, but through forms, and you will sign them, or they will sign for you. So next time you feel buried by forms or frustrated by a line or insulted by red tape, remember, at least your documents won't kill you. They won't mark your children. They won't determine if your rice ration arrives or your name is erased from the census. Maybe take a moment to be grateful. Maybe take a moment to breathe. Maybe subscribe, because next time we'll show you what happens when even your silence becomes dangerous. And in ancient China, that's not a metaphor. You won't be remembered. Not by the world. Not by your village. Not even by your own grandchildren. Your name will vanish like water in cracked soil. Your voice will fade before it reaches the walls of your home. In ancient China, memory is a luxury, and you won't earn it, because there are no grave markers for peasants, no scrolls that speak your story, no monuments, no statues, no paper etched with your deeds. You will not be written about. You will not be mourned in songs. You will die, and your absence will be routine. The truth is simple. History doesn't care about you. It doesn't care about the back-breaking work you did. It doesn't care about the children you raised, the crops you harvested, the roofs you repaired. History records names that kill, names that command, names that hold pens and issue orders and decide the fates of thousands with a signature. But you serve, you endure, you kneel, and that means you disappear. Even inside your own house, you are replaceable. Your place at the table will be filled the next day. Your tasks will be handed to another set of arms. Your clothes will be reused, your tools passed down, your name mentioned only in the practical context of what you left undone. No one tells stories about the person who dug ditches in silence. No one preserves the memory of the one who carried water uphill without being asked. You'll vanish without legacy. And if you're lucky, if you're truly lucky, that's all that will happen. Because the alternative, that's worse. The alternative is being remembered for the wrong reason. For failing to deliver taxes, for angering a magistrate, for stepping out of place, for dying in a scandal. Then your name becomes a warning, a curse, a stain. Better to be forgotten than to be recorded as a mistake. You live your entire life under a roof made of obligation. And when it collapses, the debris will be swept away before the sun sets. If you die in your sleep, the village carries on. If you die in the fields, the work doesn't stop. They wrap your body in straw, dig a shallow grave, whisper a prayer, and move on. There's no time for grief. Grief doesn't bring in the harvest. Your children will remember you for a while, but not as a person, as a list of expectations. You taught them to endure. You taught them to serve. You taught them to bow. They'll remember your warnings, not your voice. They'll repeat your habits, not your name. And when they're gone, you'll be gone again. And this time, forever. Your grave, if it exists, will be marked by a stone with no writing. Maybe not even a stone. Maybe just a dent in the earth. A sunken patch of dirt that becomes part of the landscape. Walked over. Forgotten. Eroded. Maybe it gets built over. Maybe someone grows rice on top of it. Maybe no one even knows you were there. And why would they? You were never meant to last. If you survive the day, you wake up to another one just like it. The same aching back, the same aching silence, the same water to carry, weeds to pull, mouths to feed, laws to obey. Another day without recognition. Another day without thanks. Another day spent watching the rich ride by on horses you'll never touch, carrying scrolls you'll never read, on roads you helped build with hands no one bothered to look at. And if you think that's bad, imagine surviving a week. Imagine 7 days of the same. 7 days of hunger, of illness, of cold, of waiting in line with your head down for a grain ration that might not come. Imagine surviving a month, a year, a decade, watching others rise while you stay buried in labor and silence, watching your body collapse slowly while your soul is told it should be grateful. There are no portraits of you, no stories of your cleverness, your bravery, your heartbreak. Your pain doesn't count. Your effort is assumed. Your death is expected. Maybe, just maybe, one of your descendants becomes someone. A scholar, a merchant, a general. Maybe then your name is mentioned. But not really. Not for who you were. Not for how you lived. Just as a stepping stone. A footnote. A humble origin to make someone else look bigger. You don't even get to be a hero. You don't even get to be a martyr. Because martyrs die for a cause. You die for routine, for rice, for rules. And when it's over, there is no last word. Just the sound of someone else breathing in the spot you used to sleep. So yes, you'll be forgotten, and that's the best case. Because in a world where to be remembered is to be used, to be judged, to be condemned, maybe vanishing quietly is mercy. Maybe a life that ends without scandal is a life that ends safely. Maybe silence is the only kind of peace you'll ever get. Now look at your life. Your name on a screen, your photo in a folder, your voice sent into the world. Someone out there will remember you, and that's already more than most. Maybe take a second. Maybe breathe. Maybe subscribe. Because next time, we'll show you what happens when even memory is dangerous, and the past refuses to let you go.